The child of the cabin, born on February 12, 1809, in a humble log cabin in Kentucky, Abraham Lincoln entered the world with no privilege and no wealth. The son of an illiterate farmer, he grew up surrounded by the hardships of frontier life and the rare books he devoured by firelight. Even as a child, he showed an unquenchable thirst for knowledge, a deep sense of fairness, and a heart scarred by loss. His mother died when he was only 9. But out of sorrow came strength. This quiet, poorly dressed boy dreamed of something greater. He could not yet know that he would one day become not just a president, but a timeless symbol of justice and freedom. Because Abraham Lincoln was not merely a man, he became the living embodiment of an idea. As he grew older, Abraham Lincoln's hunger for knowledge became his compass. Without formal education, he taught himself everything, from grammar to law. By candlelight, he read Shakespeare, the Bible, and law books borrowed from friends. He became known not just for his towering height, but for his towering mind. In his 20s, Lincoln worked as a store clerk, rail splitter, surveyor, and eventually a self-taught lawyer. His honesty earned him the nickname Honest Abe. But it was his ability to speak with clarity, conviction, and compassion that set him apart. When Lincoln spoke, even his enemies listened. He entered politics not for power, but for principle. He believed that America, built on the promise that all men are created equal, could not survive half free and half slave. And though he lost elections early in his career, he never gave up. His courage grew as the nation edged closer to its greatest crisis. For Lincoln, greatness wasn't born. It was built, word by word, step by step, failure by failure. By 1860, America stood on the edge of a knife. The country was deeply divided, North against South, free states against slave states. In this fragile moment, a tall, humble lawyer from Illinois stepped forward. Against all odds, Abraham Lincoln was elected the 16th President of the United States. His victory sparked outrage in the South. One by one, states began to secede from the Union. Lincoln, calm and resolute, took office knowing that the nation was unraveling. He did not seek war, but he would not allow the country to break apart. In his first inaugural address, Lincoln pleaded not as a politician, but as a father speaks to his children. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. But peace was no longer in their hands. 1 month after his inauguration, Confederate forces fired on Fort Sumter. The Civil War had begun. The storm had come, and Abraham Lincoln, with the weight of a fractured nation on his shoulders, stepped into history, not as a warrior, but as a guardian of the Union and of an unfinished promise. The Civil War tore the nation apart. Fields became battlegrounds and brothers faced each other across enemy lines. As president, Lincoln was tested like no other leader before him. He bore the pain of every fallen soldier, the burden of every decision. But in the heart of the chaos, he saw something greater, a chance to redefine what America truly meant. On January 1, 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. With the stroke of a pen, he declared that all slaves in Confederate states were free. It was a bold and moral act, not just a war measure, but a message to the world. America would no longer compromise with slavery. Some called it too radical. Others said it didn't go far enough. But Lincoln stood firm, guided by a belief that freedom was not just a right, it was a duty. As the war raged on, he visited soldiers in hospitals, walked among the wounded, and never let the darkness break his quiet strength. He knew the price of unity was high, but he also knew the value of a nation that lived up to its founding ideals. And so, through fire and blood, Abraham Lincoln became more than a president. He became the moral compass of a struggling nation. By early 1865, after 4 long years of brutal war, the Confederacy was collapsing. Lincoln had led the Union through its darkest hours, with wisdom, humility, and an unshakable belief in the promise of liberty. But victory did not bring triumph to his heart. It brought sorrow. Over 600,000 Americans were dead. The land was scarred and the people divided. Lincoln knew that healing a broken nation would require more than laws. It would require mercy. With malice toward none, with charity for all, he said in his second inaugural address, calling not for revenge, but for reconciliation. He dreamed of a new America, one where former enemies could become fellow citizens and where freedom would belong to all. On April 9, 1865, General Lee surrendered to General Grant at Appomattox. The Civil War was over, peace had come, and with it, the hope of a reborn nation. But just 5 days later, in the quiet of a theater, a gunman's bullet ended Lincoln's life. The man who saved the Union died before he could see it fully healed. Yet his legacy did not die, because Abraham Lincoln did not just lead a country, he transformed it. He made freedom more than a word. He made America live up to its highest ideals. On April 15, 1865, the morning after his assassination, the bells tolled across a grieving nation. Crowds gathered in silence, mourning not just a president, but a father figure, a moral compass, a man who had held the nation together with his words and his will. But Abraham Lincoln was never meant to fade with death. His image grew larger with time. His words were carved into stone, his face etched into mountains, his legacy taught in every classroom. Children learned his name before they understood what a president was. Around the world, he became a symbol, not of power, but of principle. When the world speaks of freedom, they remember Lincoln. When justice is under threat, his words echo still. Government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. He did not seek greatness, but by choosing what was right over what was easy, he became timeless. More than a president, Abraham Lincoln became a memory that guides, a legacy that endures. His dream of a united, free America lives on in every struggle for equality, in every voice that rises for justice. And that is why, even now, across centuries and continents, Abraham Lincoln remains the most famous American of all time.